Welcome everyone to ShootNLoot episode 10. We're running and gunning, watching and discussing all things video games and your weekly source of geekdom. I'm your host, the intrigued one, Kevin Alvarez, and to my physical front is none other than Rob the Man.
Hello everybody.
Join us as we talk about entertainment that moves us or brings us dismay. If you're new to the channel, welcome and let's have fun. Today's topics are Marvel's Black Widow and Loki, and I also wanted to talk about Assassin's Creed codename Infinite. However, before we get into it, you know the gambit. Like and subscribe to the channel. If you enjoy the show, follow us on our various social media channels. Rob, what have you been watching?
I've been catching up on Loki. Hold on a second. Let me see if... there we go. That's a little bit better. I've been watching Loki. I've gotten caught up. We saw the the finale last
season
week.
Finale.
The season finale. What I thought was going to be the series finale turns out to be the season finale.
Right.
So that's cool.
The first time that they've introduced in this MCU universe, at least for the TV verse, I'm going to call it a TV verse, where we have we have now that this is we have a season finale because they are going to make a second season.
It's the first multi-seasoned
show
Disney,
that they've done,
Disney Plus MCU show, and which is dope. I mean, it's I don't know. What did you think of the show altogether? Before I get into what I thought, what did you think of the show?
I liked Loki. I love this journey of exploring his character, where he comes from, what it means to be a Loki.
Yeah.
The different variations of Loki.
That was fun.
The journey was better than the ending for me.
Right.
I felt like the ending was the weakest part of it. Now, there's great things about the ending that I thoroughly enjoy.
Right.
But I just felt like we'll get into it, but as the show went on, it wasn't what I expected, but it's a thing that I hate from comics that derails the main narrative that we're trying to follow through.
I see what you're saying.
But again, we'll get into that.
Sure.
But other than that, I thought that the show was great. I thought 6 episodes was refreshing because, again, WandaVision was about 9-10 episodes, right?
Yeah.
For me, I love shows being 6-7 episodes. Like, give it enough breathing room to be able to create the story, but it not so long where you get tired of it. And I think that's one thing that always plagued the Netflix Marvel shows, that they always felt like one or
3 episodes too long.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You feel like you cut like 2 episodes out of that season to make it a much tighter script.
I thought Iron Fist was maybe 10 episodes too long.
Iron Fist just shouldn't have been made.
Iron Fist should have been a secondary character in Luke Cage season 2. He should have been a sidekick coming in Luke Cage season 2. And
Heroes for hire, baby.
I don't understand with Iron Fist, and I just got to say this on the podcast. I haven't said it yet, but Iron Fist, like Luke Cage, had the blaxploitation kind of thing where there was some, it had it was at its best when it was paying homage to like the Shafts and the Dolomites and all that stuff, because that's what Luke Cage is. Luke Cage was made in response to the blaxploitation films of the time, and they were making an earnest, honest, noble superhero out of those films of the time. Iron Fist wrote itself. It wrote itself. They just get a kung fu movie, put their own spin on it, and every episode,
the warrior's journey.
Sure. Every episode is one time you get the, master of the flying guillotine. The next one you get Lone Wolf and Cub. He finds a kid and he's got to protect a kid and get him from point A to point B.
Right.
The next episode is Enter the 36 Chambers, whatever, like those classic kung fu movies. And you make kind of like archetypes of, archetypical stories of those kung fu movies.
And bring them to the city of New York.
Yeah, and you put Iron Fist in it.
Yeah, and bring him to the city of New York and have him do those
or
stories.
have him travel. He's from Kung Lung. Doesn't shut the fuck up about Kung Lung.
Right.
And he's whatever. We're going off a tangent here, but
well, I feel like if they would have had the budget, they could have done it. Or if they would have had the dome, like how Disney does now with the shows now, I think you can definitely do it now.
But the thing is, I don't think the budget was a problem. If they would have condensed the 13-episode budget into a 3-hour miniseries, like you would have gotten quality. They put money into that show.
Yeah.
It just wasn't going to the right place. We never saw Iron Fist. You know what I mean? We saw guys in the past that were dressed in goofy, costumes.
Yeah.
We saw his tattoo, but we never saw him become the Iron Fist that we know.
You just felt like generic white guy.
Yeah.
Which again, there's nothing. It's not a knock against the actor.
No, he was well casted.
I thought he was well cast. I thought supporting cast was one of the better parts of the show.
Yeah.
The supporting cast was great.
Misty Knight was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was great. I forgot her name, but Misty Knight and even Colleen Wing.
Colleen Wing was one of my
awesome.
favorites. The brother and sister.
The brother and sister. They were really good
actors.
Yeah. It could have. the sum was less than its parts. You know what I mean? And
Right.
that guy, that Finn Jones, he's not a bad actor, man. He was in Game of Thrones and he did really well. But anywho, going back to Loki, I know we kind of talked. We spoke about after like season episode 2.
Episode 2, yeah. That
Yeah,
was the last
so
time
were
we had
it was
touch base
kind
on
of
it.
vague. It was kind of like I didn't know where it was going.
Which was fun, part of the mystery. Just like
Sure, sure.
WandaVision, like where is this going? Because with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you know where it's going.
You knew where it was going.
Yeah.
It was how they got there. And it didn't quite stick the landing the
No.
way WandaVision. I thought WandaVision stuck the landing. I thought it was 9 episodes, but each episode was no longer than 40 minutes.
Right.
You know, they were short 29-minute, 30-minute episodes. So I thought that was really cool as far as like it was efficient and it was effective, and there was like they used the economy of episodes well. You know what I mean? To
Especially,
develop her.
yeah, and especially doing the homages to the TV series, the family TV series of each decade was such a brilliant choice.
It was such a slow burn.
Yeah.
It was such a slow burn. And WandaVision was one of my favorite experiences with Marvel. But I gotta say, man, Loki it's up there for me.
Really is.
Because I don't have expectations when I go into these things.
Right.
I know what the comic books have, and when they pay homage to the comic books, I love it, right? But the fact that we got in one show, we got Lady Loki, we got Enchantress, we got Alioth, we got Classic Loki, Kid Loki, Throg, we got, President Loki.
Yeah.
We got what else? We got what's his name? The variant of Kang?
Immortus.
We got Immortus in a show.
Right.
We got I already said the TVA, but I'm missing something.
Mobius is a great character.
Mobius. We got Agent Mobius. We got Owen Wilson in a Marvel show, and he fucking steals every scene he's in.
He's so
with
good.
the guy that steals every scene he's in Marvel. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was the chemistry on that show. For me, in my opinion, everybody was firing on all cylinders, from the writing to the directing to Richard E. Grant. Or Richard C. Grant? I don't remember. Richard Grant. Playing classic Loki.
Oh my God, he was so good.
He
was one of my
class.
favorites. Yeah.
It was the whole thing. And so here's the way, I'm not trying to convince you, but let's play devil's advocate here. That last episode, the climax of Loki was episode 5. The climax of Loki, the big ending, the big finale was episode 5, when they fought Alioth, and when classic Loki gets consumed by Alioth, and Loki and Sylvie actually, they
kill the monster.
They
or control it.
They charm the monster. Yeah. And again, the fact that we got the timekeepers in live action, that's crazy, man. That's insane. So for me,
or like a fake version of them.
Sure. However we got them, it's they're there.
Yeah.
And which for me is like, fuck yeah, they're getting into that realm of like the super overpowered beings. We're not talking about armor suits or super soldiers now. We're talking about the guys who are controlling the fabric of space-time.
Exactly. We're getting cosmic threats now.
We're getting into the Jack Kirby fucking realm of characters,
The
with
Living Tribunal, Galactus. We're getting to those type of levels of mystical threats that are out there. Even Dormammu I could see coming back and be able to fuck with the world too.
Oh, I don't think we've seen the last of Dormammu at all. But I think just having a series where, okay, it ends after episode 5. That's your climax. They got Alioth. They charmed. She enchanted Alioth, and then that allowed them to get to the final big bad. Right?
The end of time.
To the end of time. So if you look at that final episode, not as the grand finale, but as the epilogue. This is what happens after. This is after Frodo and Sam drop the ring into the fucking lava. You know? This is all the loose ends tying up. When you think of it like that, it's a very classic, like, literary way to end it. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of stories that are famous stories that end with this kind of classic epilogue. We were just talking before we recorded. We brought up Beowulf for some reason. Oh, because we're fucking geeks. But we brought up Beowulf. Beowulf ends like that. It has an epilogue. It ends, Logan. Logan is an epilogue. It's not the biggest fight of their life, but it's their last fight. You know what I mean? I felt that Loki did that. And in a way, subverted expectations, where it wasn't this big grand fight. The story ends with a 30, 40-minute conversation. You know what I mean? Conversation about purpose or glorious purpose or whatever, and it ends with free will being kind of like being unlocked and it runs amok, and now we have the multiverse, you know?
Right.
Like for me, I thought it was great. It's Loki is probably the show I expected to like the least of the Marvel shows. I expected to like Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I feel like that one had a shaky landing. There was a couple of things that to me were, I loved it. I love Anthony Mackie. I love Sebastian Stan. There was a couple things that were too on the nose for me.
Again, it's because of the whole pandemic situation.
I get that.
I mean, rumors are they had a whole viral infection thing happening in the show, and they had to pivot hard because of that. You know?
And I buy that, but right now I'm only speaking from an end product.
Exactly.
View, you know,
no, yeah, definitely.
Where I can't, we can't talk like, Loki.
It's not the what ifs. This is what we got.
I'm talking about the final product. The what ifs, we can go, on and on.
We can go watch it in a couple months.
That's true, right? Yeah, we can actually see the what ifs. But yeah, I really thought that Loki was the most cohesive, most satisfying Marvel Disney Plus show to date, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. It was just, everything was tied up. And even though it ended on a cliffhanger, we're getting a season 2. Fuck yeah, I wanted a season 2. Watching, Hunter, what is it? Hunter 85, 58, 150, Hunter 15, whatever, the lady from Lovecraft Country,
mm-hmm.
County, whatever. Watching her.
Yeah, I don't think she had a character. She was just Hunter or something.
She was Hunter B15, Hunter B, something like that. I think it was B15.
Because it was the administrator Renslayer. That was her, Mobius, and then the Hunter.
Yeah. So the Hunter character who was linked up with Owen Wilson at the end, and Loki, Tom Hiddleston, just watching that, you really got a sense of how much he loved that character. You really get a sense of, this is, the Loki we saw develop in Dark World and Ragnarok and in Infinity War. That Loki's gone. He died.
That's a different Loki.
Now this Loki has all those experiences because he saw them. He lived them. He saw them play out.
Yeah.
So he has all of those experiences. He has the emotional
future sight.
Sure. He's got like the emotional weight of those experiences, knowing that that's what's going to happen to him. That when he comes back, if he comes back to the sacred, quote unquote, sacred timeline, mm-hmm. the world he's going back to is one where his mother's already died because of him. Yeah. His father's already dead. You know what I mean? Thanos has already snapped half the people out of his existence. Hulk already snapped them all the way back. You know what I mean? Tony Stark is dead. Like, he's coming into that world.
His brother's fat.
His brother's fat? Probably not. He's fucking jacked now. Yeah. He's fucking jacked now. But like he's coming into a world where all those things that he didn't know happened have already happened. You know? And I think that that in conjunction with the experience he had at the TVA, being such a fucking narcissist that he falls in love with himself, which is fucking awesome. Like, that's such a great, like, character beat. You know what I mean? Where it's, of course, the only person he feels empathy for or sympathy for or even attraction to is him.
It's someone like himself.
No, it's him. It's literally him. You know what I mean? But just from a different universe, from a different timeline, you know? I think that's like, there's so much richness in character. The story sets up all the things we knew were going to happen, the Spider-Man movie, Multiverse of Madness, Quantum Mania. Like, we know that's where they're going. Mm-hmm. And this just kind of paved the road for it. So for me, I thought it was awesome. I know that a lot of people didn't like. I know you have a different opinion. Yeah. I can see you. I can see you just waiting at the starting line, waiting for the signal. No, but it's for me, I just thought it was really well put together. It was airtight. It was airtight with such a high concept, as far as like timelines. And you talk about multiverses with people and it blows their fucking mind sometimes, Mm-hmm. The fact that that's like a real thing scientists are kicking around, you know what I mean? It's
been a theory for a long, long time.
It has for about 100 years, but not like seriously, where scientists are taking it seriously. It's been about 80 years, you know what I mean? It hasn't been that long, you know? But still, that concept where you talk about that sometimes and people's brains fucking melt. And now it's like, it's in a show that's a pop culture kind of a figuehead. You know?
Rick and Morty, it's all about a multiverse.
It's about the multiverse.
Just having fun with it, put a comedic beat on it.
Yeah. And so I really think that with all the time traveling rules, with all the things that they had to like, all kind of like all the logistics and the physics that they had to kind of establish, where the story went, I thought was really well done. You could tell that it was a labor of love. If it wasn't for me, I watching it, I could just see I could tell that Tom Hiddleston was just fucking loving it. He produced the show too. And it's something that 10 years ago when they made the first Thor movie, you know, I'm flipping through Disney Plus and I see the Thor movie, you know, the first one, you know, the little title card for it. Right next to it, I see Loki, and I think to myself, that's fucking crazy. We have a show about Loki, you know, like that would have never happened. You know what I mean? Like 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you wouldn't have a movie about a bad guy that's so obscure. Nobody knew who the fuck Loki was until, you know what I mean? 2010, 2011.
And even Norse mythology now has blown up into such a zeitgeist that lots of video games have it. Lots of shows are copying Norse and Viking mythology into them. Freaking the latest Assassin's Creed Valhalla is all about that.
Yeah.
And God of War has its own spin on the Norse mythology as well.
Did you know that The Mask with Jim Carrey, the spirit that enchants the mask is Loki?
Oh my God. I didn't know that.
So when he becomes the mask, he's Loki.
Yeah.
He's the Norse god of the Norse god. Like they refer to the Norse god specifically. But yeah, I just think like for me as a comic book fan, I remember reading the old Thor Corps comic books where it was Donald Blake, the younger Thor, and Beta Ray Bill. And it was like a trio of Thors, you know, and one had Stormbreaker. Stormbreaker. And one had, you know, and then the actual Thor had like a sword and he had a big beard. He was an older version of Thor.
The God Butcher's arc, which Christian Bale's going to play as Gore.
It was earlier than that.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking like 1990.
Gotcha.
Like, because I inherited a bunch of comic books from my uncles. You know what I mean? Like I didn't go and buy them. So when I was like 10, I was, you know, it was like 10 or 13 in that kind of gap. It was already 96, 97, 98. But I'm reading comic books from 1990, 1992, 1995. So I was a little behind on the comic books. I never bought them because I kept, you know, my uncles would buy them and then they'd give them to me. So I would inherit all of them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I was always a little bit behind, but I had some really classic like stories. You know, I had the first comic book where the Destroyer comes out, like the, you know, the big metal guy.
Yeah.
I had the first comic book of that, and I remember it was like the pages were brown and shit. And then I didn't even know what I had, man. I just had, you know, I'd, you know, read them on the shitter, and then the, you know, the water from just being in the bathroom would just destroy them, and I'd chuck them. You know, I didn't even know what the hell I had. But
so how did you feel? So now that you have this knowledge base of Thor, and then you got the show based on Loki, right? Again, like you said, like an obscure character that we've grown and love as the MCU has progressed and evolved over time.
Yeah.
And we got the finale. It's great. It's an amazing finale.
I thought so, at least. Yeah.
No, lots of people think that. Yeah. It's an amazing finale because it really does set up what people have been wondering of where is Phase 4 gonna go. Because again, up until now, we don't have any definitive proof of what's going to happen to the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
Again, all of the stuff that we know, it's just background news, studios making decisions, and characters and actors
casting information,
exactly
shit like that.
But in the story, we haven't had any definitive proof of where the story was going to go, and now we do. We know that we're going to go with the multiverse war.
Yeah. And
does that mean Secret Wars? Does that mean its own thing? Who knows, right? But we know that Kang the Conqueror is coming.
Yeah. And
I think that's where I have my biggest problem with the show.
Really?
My biggest problem with the show is that I agree 100% with you. I love that we got Loki. Again, I didn't expect much from Loki either, and I ended up fucking falling in love with this show.
I thought just because of Quantum Leap.
Just because of the imagery that it shows, the way it not breaks the rules, but set up new rules for what it means to be outside of time. Because again, we've gotten concepts like that through the Infinity Gems, right? The Infinity Stones of what it means Endgame, what it means to break reality, things like that. Now you're getting this whole other side of it that you're starting to learn that there's more powerful beings at play in this Marvel universe, that it can bring a bigger threat. And again, just like when Thanos said, like this little insignificant planet has major repercussions to what happens in the galaxy. Yeah, because the universe. This is where our heroes are based at, right? Right. In my issue with Loki isn't that it's not good. I love Kang the Conqueror. I love the actor that they got to play. Jonathan Majors, who they got. He was great. I love the entire scene of him talking about and setting up again, what it is. This is going to be a multiverse war. Kang the Conqueror is coming, and that's going to bring in the Eternals. That's going to bring up all the other characters that we're going to need now, because there's going to be an even bigger threat than what Thanos had set up before.
Right.
If Thanos was a conqueror, what is stronger than a conqueror? A cosmic force, something that's going to ripple through the galaxy, right? But the problem with that is that because of setting that up, you're walking into Amazing Spider-Man 2 territory, where you're trying to set up things for the future that you let the main product suffer. Because I disagree with you that I don't think episode 5 and 6 is like an ending and an epilogue. Right. Episode 6 is the ending. There's no epilogue. That is the ending of the season. Right. And because of that, I felt like Loki's character didn't get a resolution, or it was quickly pushed to get him a resolution, because we're trying to set up for the next thing. And there's one thing I agree with you that I love when they bring characters back from comic books that we've read, storylines that are familiar to us, but also put a spin on it that works well on a film or TV basis, right? Right. Because again, Civil War that happened in the comics looks nothing like Civil War that happens
not at all.
In the movies. But I love how they do it in the movies, because it's a much smaller scale, right? Smaller stakes that are more personal to the Avengers,
and it's relevant to the world that the movie characters are living in.
Exactly, the Sokovia Accords, all the things that had happened up to that point. Again, makes more sense than what happened in the comic books.
Yeah.
But because of that, it's that comic book trope I've always hated, where you're reading this great comic book run, and then suddenly you have to stop everything. There's a main event that all the comics have to be involved in.
I see.
You know what I'm saying? I've always hated that in comics, and I think because I understand that you'll have these huge events like Avengers vs. X-Men, Spider-Verse, things like that happen in the comic books, where, hey, there's this big event. This is what gets readers, buying every single issue to try to get the whole story from each different run. But the main story series suffers. Like, if you're having a great Black Widow run and suddenly she has to stop to go do this event, you just suddenly stopped all the progression of that story, because she has to go do this thing.
I see what you're saying, but I don't agree that it applies to Loki, because Loki is about the character. But it's not just, if you look at Loki, every letter is in a different font, right?
Yeah.
So it's like every every font is like a different it's a different variant, you know. They're talking about a different Loki. And it delivers on Lokis. You know what I mean? Like, we got a scene where it's just a battle of 20 Lokis kicking each other's ass. We got alligator Loki, we got the boastful Loki. But I don't agree that there was a rushed or for me, it was a satisfying character arc for him, where he comes out. He's literally coming out of Avengers 1, which is arguably his worst. Him at his worst. You know what I mean? It's when he's murdered the most people, where he's taken the free will away from a bunch of people, even Hawkeye, and he ripped that guy's eyeball out. You know what I mean? Like, he did a lot of horrible things in Avengers. Even more so than what he did in Thor. He wasn't a genocidal maniac in Thor, and he kind of was, but not to the degree he was in Avengers. Right here, he's coming right off the heels of Avengers, which is his most humiliating defeat, but also his most ambitious, attempt at being a conqueror.
His biggest undertaking.
Yeah, his biggest undertaking, at least in the comic books, right? I mean, in the movies. So you're getting him at his worst. You're facing him with his failures. He sees the progression of his failures, that it leads to Frigga's death. He sees that, Odin's gone, that he sees that he loses the people that he loves, and he develops in every way that he would have developed all the way up until his death in Infinity War. But then he has the whole TVA thing. So it's not just him developing as the way we've seen him develop already. It's him learning to accept himself, learning what his tendencies are,
what damage he's caused, because he's trying to be a ruler and trying to break people's own free will, and he's living in a world where that doesn't even matter.
That scene where he's talking to Owen Wilson and he's like, I don't want to hurt people, but it's necessary, that scene tells you so, right there, that's character development that we wouldn't have had time to see in a movie that wasn't about him.
Right, exactly.
And we've seen tons of development about him, but in reality, we've only had, if you summarized everything, I think in that Marvel Assembled show, he only had about 2 hours of screen time before the show.
Right.
And then suddenly we get 6 hours with this character. You know what I mean? Like, that's such a, that's such a drastic change of focus. You know what I mean? That you get to see all these little nooks and crannies of him. And then you see him, even though even though Sylvie is a variant of Loki and it's still him, you get to see how he becomes when he cares for someone else who's in his position. So at the end, when he says, look, I just want you to be all right.
Mm-hmm.
I just, I don't care about Asgard. I don't care about Earth. I don't care about, a throne. I just want you to be cool,
And that is the character development that I feel is hampered by Kang or by Immortus. By introducing the character that he has no ties with, just throwing it's you say it's a 30-40 minute showdown conversation, right? Yeah. Because this person has to explain who he is, because he's a character that's thrown at the end of an episode to set up for something else.
I get that, but
like it doesn't.
But he's been explained indirectly through the TVA. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Through the explanation of it, it's just like the Wizard of Oz, where you see the wizard, but you see the actual scientist behind the curtain.
Right.
He's the scientist behind the curtain.
No, I definitely get that, but that's what I feel like hurts the stories, the show's story, because look how the ending goes. Loki is back to a different timeline, and he's looking at Kang the Conqueror statue, right? You don't get his resolution gets rushed when in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, WandaVision, they sit with what happens at the end. You see the progression from the beginning of the season to the end, right? Again, I don't agree with you that it's not a good season or anything like that. I don't agree that Loki doesn't get a resolution. I just feel like the resolution was rushed because we need to start setting up for the bigger universe at play.
But also keep in mind that WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier were never meant to have second seasons. The fact that this show has a second season, and that's what they were planning to all along, that second season, we're not getting Quantumania till 2023.
Right.
We're probably getting Loki season 2 next year. So that means that we're going to have, or next year, or even in 2023, but I'm sure we're getting Loki season 2 sometime in the next year and a half.
But it's not a good enough excuse to say that you're going to have a resolution for Loki on the next season when he should have had it now.
But the thing is for me, when I watch it, I see a resolution. I don't see a resolution to the conflict, but I see a resolution. I see
his growth, because eventually he grows stronger than Sylvie. He overcomes himself. That is the resolution. It's a redemption arc.
Yeah. But that's my point then. Like, the character has an arc. The character had a paradigm shift. The character worked. The story of the character, it's there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just the problem, the external problem wasn't solved, because the external problem is something that is threaded between multiple projects. I don't think of it as just setup. I feel like if we look at it that way, then Thanos at the end of Avengers was pointless. Thanos in at the end of Avengers 2 was pointless. Thanos in Guardians of the Galaxy was pointless.
It's not pointless, because those are just extra scenes that these characters are not aware of. This is the end game scene inserted into a character's personal journey. Loki and Sylvie don't have any relation to Kang at all. They don't know who
does.
Well, actually, they've been trying to hunt him down, but like, it's almost like, okay, this is a bad comparison, but again, it's like bringing Palpatine back, or bringing someone else that had nothing to do with the story in the beginning, and then suddenly have to explain their existence in the same time that they show up, and kill them off in that same episode. I just don't think it carries well, because if not to say that they had to sprinkle more Kang in the show to lead up to it, I think this is a good as a dramatic reveal of what this is going to set up for the future. I think it's great. It gives people what we're wanting, right? It gives us the blueprint of what the next couple of years is going to be.
And it's a different introduction than we got in Thanos. You know? Like this, like right here, Thanos wasn't. Why did Thanos start looking for the Infinity Stones at Infinity War? You know what I mean? Was he waiting? What the hell was he waiting for?
Right.
He had 2 of them. He had 2 of them in the Mind Stone and in the Tesseract at the beginning of Avengers. Why did he stop there? You know what I mean?
Right.
Why did he give them to Loki? So that Loki could hand them over to the Avengers. You know what I'm saying? Like there were certain things that weren't as airtight, that were questionable in Thanos's, the way Thanos kind of became the big bad over the years.
Right, exactly.
I think the fact that
again, the MCU isn't airtight either. You know,
no, of course
we
not.
see lots of discrepancies that don't make sense.
Of course not. But if this is a Thanos level threat, if Kang is the next Thanos level threat, right? If that's what they're saying, this is the new big bad, right? And we're dealing with the multiverse, and in the Marvel, the current 616, right?
Yeah.
That's where they have the most benevolent variant of Kang. He's the most he's the least evil version of Kang.
Right. Yeah.
That's how what Immortus is, right? And then that's broken through vengeance, right?
Yeah.
So in his I don't agree that he just comes up and has nothing to do with anybody, because the TVA was the cloak, was the curtain that he was hiding in front of. We saw in episode 4 that the timekeepers were bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
So someone had to be behind the timekeepers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they find out who's behind the timekeepers, and it turns out to be a variant of Kang. The fact, I don't think having a mystery equates to somebody coming out of nowhere. So for example, I liken it more to like The Wizard of Oz, but also Seven with Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt. Have you ever seen that movie?
No, I haven't seen it.
You've never seen Seven. So there's someone committing these grisly murders that are it's a great movie. But there's someone committing these grisly murders based on the 7 deadly sins. You have lust and sloth, gluttony, power or wrath, greed. You have all the 7 deadly sins, and they're committing these grisly fucking murders, man, like horrible murders. And Brad Pitt's a new cop, Morgan Freeman's an old cop, and they're the guy who played the murderer. Mm-hmm. I don't want to spoil it for you. If you
I'm probably not gonna watch it.
Okay, so Kevin Spacey is the murderer. You know, you should watch Seven, by the way.
Okay,
it's an awesome movie. It's a classic fucking movie, right? It's amazing. So the guy committing the murder is Kevin Spacey.
Okay,
he's in the movie for about 18 minutes. 18 minutes, like the last 20 minutes of the movie, he's in it, and he fucking steals it. Damn. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think he got nominated for an Oscar for that movie. So it's done correctly, and Jonathan Majors has the chops to show up in a show
definitely
in the last minute and be like, "It was me all along, bitches."
Yeah.
And then and he has that clout. If you look at him,
I'm not arguing that point that they shouldn't have added it. I'm just arguing the point that I feel like Loki was short staffed because of it, or they stunted his great fan, his coming of this is who I am now. Right. Because then as soon as that's done, he gets pushed into the portal, and then he's already on to the next event or the next disaster. Right. We just don't get to stay with it in the same way that we get to stay with Captain America as he finally accepts the mantle of being Captain America, or even Wanda, who accepts that, you know what,
I'm the Scarlet Witch
and I went through shit, and let me go heal, whatever, right? She there's no, they don't sit with it, where you show that Loki grew as a character. Again, I love Immortus. I love what this sets up for the future. I'm excited for Quantumania now, because not only do we have this guy.
What would you have wanted them to do with Loki? Because to me, there's character development in spades, man. Because it happens early on,
I guess I would have liked if at the end of it we got more time with Loki to process what just happened, instead of just cutting it at the knees there.
So maybe the cliffhanger didn't sit well with you.
Exactly. Okay, because again, I want to make sure hey, Loki just did a big step here. He grew up as a giant character, but everyone's just so focused on Kang and everything and what that means for the Marvel Universe that you forgot who the main focus of the show was. It's about Loki.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I feel like they did it. There's character development in spades for him. I think that it's justified the way they did it because there's a season 2. There's more time. We're gonna have more time.
No, yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean?
But so, I also feel like there's a season 2 because they did this. It's okay, well, let's give him an actual ending.
I guess so. Maybe.
Or maybe he might be the one who's gonna thread everything together. Remember how we started at the beginning of the show, in episode 8, I believe, or when we were talking about when the first 2 episodes of Loki came out. Right. That I think Loki is gonna be the agent. They're ace in the hole for the MCU to be able to fight whatever else is coming with the multiverse. You have someone who's out of time in the pocket who will know this world.
Maybe Thor 5,
exactly,
or Avengers 5,
and he could be the Hulk this time, saying that Thanos is coming. Yeah, he's like, Kang is coming. Yeah, multiverse war is coming. Yeah, we need to prepare. Things like that. Right. And I still think that still holds true the way that the show ends. But again, I just couldn't help watching the show that this took some steam out of it for me in that sense for his character, but then excites me for everything else.
I guess so. I was satisfied with what they did. I was genuinely satisfied with what they did on Loki's behalf, because not only did you get development from Loki, you got development from Sylvie, you got development from classic Loki, where he's like
I love
cynic.
classic Loki. Loki's so good.
He's a cynic, you know. He's like, everything's fucked, you know. And then at the
he's
end,
lived through all it.
Yeah, but
he's done it all.
But actually, the one who's oldest is Kid Loki. Because if he was pruned as a kid, then he's been at the end of time longer. Think about it, because he was pruned a lot earlier than the other guys, you know. Classic Loki got pruned after Thanos, after Infinity War. Classic Loki was pruned way after the Loki we saw now. You know what I mean? So like, you see the arcs, not so much with Kid Loki or with Boastful Loki or with President Loki, but you see the arc. We got 3, arcs for 3 different Lokis. You know
Alligator Loki.
It was great. It was great. I would love a spinoff with Classic Loki and Kid Loki and Alligator Loki. Just just more Loki.
Yeah, just Loki.
It's fucking fun, man. It's really fun to see all the things.
I feel like we're gonna get that. Well, not with the Loki, but we're gonna get that with the what ifs. That we're gonna see how things develop if they would have played in a different way, and just see how what their adventures are.
Just the what ifs, the what ifs scenario of,
because that's what it feels like. The what ifs of these Lokis is gonna be the what if show. I think we're gonna get some of that
but
when
with
that
other
comes.
Characters,
exactly. But either way, you're 100% on Loki. I'm like 85%. I think 80. I'm like on an 8.5 on the. If I had to like grade it, I loved it. I think the entire the journey there, the mystery, the characters that are then the actors are in the show are amazing. And the reveal at the end is impactful. This is something major that you wouldn't have thought would be added to a show. This is something major that you would think would be in a movie, but no, they're treating the MCU like they've always treated the MCU. These are big changes, big sweeping changes to the universe itself that they're developing. Wanda has the Darkhold. She's training herself to be a much better mage. Captain America is Captain America now.
Falcon's Captain America.
He's wholeheartedly taking the mantle of the shield and what that means and represents. Not for it.
And saying fuck the haters.
Right, fuck the haters. And then you have Madam Hydra be introduced.
Right.
And then being
Thunderbolts.
And Thunderbolt Ross and U.S. Agent. Oh, you're building the world up to be bigger again.
Right.
And now with the shows like Eternals, Shang-Chi, and Ten Rings, you're starting to rebuild the catalog of characters. Now, like you've mentioned before, how do you get Robert Downey Jr. back? How do you get Chris Evans back? Now you have your answer. Kang is that answer. We can bring back these characters, but not the one. You can bring back Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, but not maybe our Iron Man, but an Iron Man that survived his snap with Thanos, or maybe never fought Thanos,
or they never went back in time. Everyone snapped away, and that's that.
Maybe in this other universe, he trains Ironheart. You don't think that brings all so many exciting possibilities of what they can do now with the universe. Now that they've set up these rules,
and it even brings up a way to bring back a T'Challa. You know what I mean? Where it's like, maybe it's soon to talk about it, but straight up, it's
R.I.P.
Rest in peace. But there's more stories for T'Challa. And I think it's important for people to see that not just one actor can play.
These are mantles, like how Batman and Superman have been mantles for several years before these movies started. It shouldn't
just be one actor that can play this character and then that's it. You want to respect the character, but I mean, by that logic, we would have never gotten Joaquin Phoenix's Joker.
We would have never gotten another 007. You know what I'm saying?
We would have never had another Batman.
We've had what, 5, 6 different 007s now?
We've had more Batmans than 007s. Yeah. At this point, I think we're on our 5th or 6th 007. Yeah, so there's a Sean Connery, Roger Moore, Timothy Dalton, George Lazenby, Pierce Brosnan, and Daniel. Right. Yeah, so 6. Yeah. Fucking nerd.
Speaking of 007, what did you think of Black Widow?
Ooh, I thought it was good too, man. I dug Black Widow again.
What did you like more between Black Widow and Loki? Like, what did you enjoy more? Because Loki gives us something new. Loki gives us not progress, but like a new stepping stone to what the MCU is. Black Widow feels like a oh, we forgot this episode of the series.
It's just
and let's watch it.
the
hidden the lost episode.
Yeah, definitely felt like a lost episode. But here's how I kind of work them out in my head. Loki was made out of love for the character. Black Widow was made out of respect to the character.
Right.
Where Loki was fun and elaborate and they were just throwing everything at it and like I said, from a production standpoint, down to the way the things looked on the walls, I thought it was beautiful. You know what I mean? Like the way it was shot, everything was great.
Such great visual imagery of all the apocalyptic events that they were hiding in.
Yeah.
Pompeii, the hurricane at Rock's Cart, which is like their version of Walmart and Roxxon put together. I thought that was great, a nod to the comics.
And all the Easter eggs, the Thanos copter, the head of the statue of the living tribunal, Throg.
He's trying to reach his little hammer. He's stuck in the little
Yellow
jar.
Jacket's helmet. Too.
Yeah,
Yellow Jacket's helmet, like all kinds of shit, man. So that was done out of love, and it was like you can feel it that they, for me personally, watching it was like they were just loving it, right? Black Widow was she earned it.
Yeah.
She earned like Scarlett Johansson earned that movie. You know, she was in there literally from the second MCU movie, and she was straight up, man. She was treated like a piece of meat. The first, you know what I mean? They just threw her skin tight suit, look sexy, blah 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 blah. You know what I'm saying?
And that's one thing I love about Black Widow is that they acknowledge that. They acknowledge all the, not the shortcomings, but some of the the beginnings of what Black Widow started as a character.
Yeah.
And then honoring where she ends up being.
Right.
Being a person where she straight up says, maybe she doesn't straight up say it, but she is a character that straight up fights gods and monsters and aliens from outer space.
Yeah.
And is able to hold her own. I remember in that scene in Avengers 2, I think, where she's talking to Hawkeye and it's like, yeah, we're fighting aliens. Like, none of this makes sense.
Oh,
but
I think that's in Avengers 2.
Right, exactly. And none of this makes sense, but we're still here because we're Avengers, along those lines,
And that's what I thought with Black Widow. It's it felt like you could play them at the same if you started Black Widow and Winter Soldier at the same time, you're going to see some split screen action going on. Or it's like, oh, there's lots of parallels, but it's an espionage type of action movie, But she earned it.
You have Taskmaster, which straight up just uses moves that you've seen in Winter Soldier too. The knife trick from Winter Soldier, things like that.
Black Panther moves. He's got the Black Panther claws. He's got the shield. He the bow and arrow. I think he even does some Spider-Man moves, if I'm not mistaken, like when they're free falling.
Yeah.
But either way, Black Widow, it felt like there's a nugget of untreaded ground that they could go under as far as like the Red Guardian, are we gonna get Red Guardian versus Falcon Cap? And you know what I mean? Like that's gonna be dope,
right?
You know what I mean? Like,
and even if you don't, it's still a fun nugget of seeing this family play out or show where her origin comes from, because she never got an origin movie.
No.
And so now, not only do you get an origin movie in Black Widow, you get a cool spy espionage adventure, and the setup for a new Black Widow.
And all the characters were on point, man. Like the Taskmaster was Taskmaster was the thing that was furthest from the comics and from the source material. But after playing that fucking video game, dude, I'm fucking cool. Taskmaster could have been a fucking broom for all I care, and I would have been cool with it, man. It could have been a doorknob for all I care, and I would have been like, yes, just give me something else than the fucking two villain sectors that I've been. Abomination and Shang-Chi, I'm excited for that.
Right.
But
why is he fighting Wong? Is that Wong? It looks like Wong.
But also, can you really have Thunderbolts, the Thunderbolts team without Abomination, without their Hulk? You know what I mean?
Songbird is also in Thunderbolts too, right?
I think
and
Songbird.
Venom.
Yeah.
Tom Hardy's Venom.
But it's not. I think it's Agent Venom in Thunderbolts.
Oh, gotcha.
But either way, throw Tom Hardy's Venom in there. Fuck it. I'm down with that shit too. Who gives a shit?
One thing I wanted to bring up about Black Widow is that I think it's a fun flick.
Yeah.
For me, it's a little, not that we shouldn't have gotten this way earlier, like a little bit earlier than what we did.
Sure.
I think it would have been more impactful if we got it before Endgame. I understand why they didn't do it. Maybe they didn't really believe that before Infinity. Maybe they didn't believe that Black Widow wouldn't be able to, hold up a film.
Yeah.
Now you show that you can. So maybe, hey, we'll what's the name of the actress? Florence.
Belova? Oh, Florence Pugh.
Florence Pugh.
I think it's pronounced that way.
Will she get her own Black Widow movie now that we have the ability to show, hey, Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, you know, like all these characters that we're introducing to the MCU, they'll be able to hold up a blockbuster movie, and people will show up for it.
I think it was a misstep to have Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel be the first female-led Marvel movie because there was no context. I think
and it was an amnesia story. I hate more than where the character doesn't act like themselves until the very end, because guess what? They don't know who they are.
They don't know who they are, and you don't know who they are until the last act.
Exactly.
So I'm with you on that. Captain Marvel is far from the worst Marvel movie.
No, I watched it the other day, like not too long ago, before I watched Black Widow. Yeah. I still think it's a fun movie. It's a fun romp. I just feel like it gets going once she figures out who she is,
and her charisma starts shining.
Exactly, that's where you start to see that fun.
Yeah. With Black Widow, I felt like I understand the annoyance of having it come out at the wrong time as far as like the release schedule. But for me, it's that as soon as I watched it, it was irrelevant. You know what I mean? I threw
because it was fun. You just got into it.
I could suspend my disbelief and be like, I'm like, okay, I'm plugged into these movies enough to know that this is between this and that. You know what I mean? And okay, fine. Yeah. The vest was a little silly.
I thought the vest was the funniest part.
It was like the dice.
I get it. Like I totally get it.
Han Solo's dice. Man.
And MCU does this. We're used to them setting up Easter eggs or connections from one movie to the next.
Right.
I just thought it was, like you said, it's Han Solo's dice. They just focused so much on it that it was kind of hard not to ignore it.
Yeah.
If it was something smaller, that would have been more funny, right?
Baton.
Or something, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that they spent like a good 3 minutes talking about this vest
with pockets
and how much it means to her, I thought it was really funny.
I thought Yelena Belova was great, man.
She was great.
She's a really good actress. She's really funny, committed to the accent. Didn't drop the accent at all.
No.
You know what I mean? Same thing with David Harbour as a Red Guardian.
Mm-hmm.
They kept their accent, man, like in a way that
they told a fun family movie about this family that's a little dysfunctional, but guess what? That's your family, right?
They're fucked up.
They're there for you.
Yeah.
And I love how they tie the idea of family to Black Widow's character and what that means for her family with the Avengers
too. Yeah.
Like I feel like now that you have this movie, that will have an even bigger impact. When because
upon rewatch,
because that's what these movies are built on as well. That's why you have the Disney Plus service. You can rewatch everything.
Yeah. Watch them in different orders, and they feel different. Like I watched the big three. I'm sorry to interrupt, man.
Yeah.
I watched Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, Avengers 1, Iron Man 3, Avengers 2, Civil War. Like I watched Iron Man's arc, and then I watched Cap's arc, and then I watched Thor's arc. And there's overlapping movies, but when you're watching it that way, it's like you see it from like different perspectives, and they get kind of cool, man. Like it was like through the pandemic, so I had time.
And then you see all the threads that they had tied so many years ago that it just, again, you could show there's love and care and the connective tissue between the stories in this world that they're building up.
What did you think about the Taskmaster reveal?
I thought Taskmaster as a character is a cool concept. I don't think in the movie it played out that well.
Yeah.
I thought it was okay. I didn't like generic Russian bad guy at the end of it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I control the widows. I have all this power and control.
Yeah.
Where were you during Civil War? It almost means nothing that this person could do all these things because we've seen worse.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? In these movies. Like, dude, you're nobody. Like, literally, there's a giant fucking metal beast guy that came out in Thor 1 that could just fucking destroy all your fucking Black Widows. What the fuck are you talking about? That don't think you're the hot shit
or
here.
Can he? Because we've seen Widow go up against, some pretty tough tough motherfuckers, you know what I mean?
But I thought Taskmaster was underused.
Yeah.
I love the scenes that they did set up with Taskmaster, all the fight scenes, the part where they're falling down, the
action was top
the red room, and I thought that was all really well done. I wanted more of that, I guess. I wanted more tighter scenes because, like you mentioned, this movie felt a lot closer to Winter Soldier, and Winter Soldier had so many good scenes between Cap and Winter Soldier where they fight off, or even Winter Soldier versus Black Widow too. But the fact that they didn't kill Taskmaster off means that we still have possibility to bring her back into the fold and have her be built up for either as another villain or as another Avengers member or another person that's part of a team. What if Taskmaster is part of Thunderbolts?
I could see
know what I'm saying? Things like that. A redemption.
Definitely Marvel's Deathstroke.
That'd be very cool.
But what did you think of the gender swap of Taskmaster? What did you think of the abandonment of Tony Masters, the you know, he's
photogenic, right?
He's like
photo memory, like super soldier.
Yeah, but he's like a little bit like Deadshot, and he's like kind of like a cocky, you know, rich guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's an assassin. It's like if you mix Deadshot and Deathstroke, that's kind of what Taskmaster is.
For me, it's like Deadshot with Sportsmaster. That's what I always pictured Taskmaster to be.
Sure.
I didn't mind it, to be honest. I didn't think it really mattered who was Taskmaster.
Yeah.
I honestly thought it was Hawkeye or for a long time, but I'm like, I'm dumb because he's just copying Hawkeye.
Yeah.
But I thought that was gonna be the. For a long time, I thought the story was that they're gonna reenact what happened in Budapest, and that maybe Hawkeye was the undercover agent, and he was Taskmaster, and things like that.
I thought they were gonna have the guy who was getting her weapons. I thought he was.
Oh, that would have been cool.
Because he kind of fit
the guy from Handmaid's Tale.
Sure, I've never seen that show.
Oh, okay.
But I figured he was like double, you know, playing both sides. You know, what I mean? Keeping his eye close on her. Keeping a close eye on her. I said that all backwards. And then also providing her with support, you know, just to kind of keep your friends close, enemies closer type of thing. I thought it was going to be something like that. But I thought that
Dreykov's daughter. That's what
Dreykov's daughter.
Antonia Dreykov, right?
I don't remember, but
I think it's Antonia Dreykov.
I think that having Dreykov's daughter survive got rid of some of the red in the ledger that was so important to her to clear out, and then having her survive, that was the worst thing she did in her mind that we know of supposedly. Having her survive kind of undoes the actual dirt that she has in her background. You know what I mean? I thought that was a little like Control Z, you know, undo.
Yeah.
You know,
to make her more like a hero,
make her more sympathetic. But I think that, hey man, she fucked up. Like they should have killed the daughter and left her dead.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't mind if it was another widow. I really, like I said, after the Avengers game, it could have been Thunderbolt fucking Ross in that fucking shit, and I don't care just because I fucking hate Taskmaster as a character now. But I like the how imposing the figure is. I like the moniker, the mantle of Taskmaster.
I love the
scary.
shield with the symbol on it.
Yeah.
Dude, that was so badass that I love how the
design was great.
Yeah.
The character design was great.
A lot of people, I've seen a lot of people online call it Power Rangers Taskmaster because he looked a little Power Rangers-ish.
Yeah, absolutely.
But again, it's just a modern interpretation of what Taskmaster would be. You're not going to have him with his tights.
Yeah.
And in the game, he just has one of those Halloween masks.
Yeah.
That's
like
his skull.
Like a ballistic army of one type of mask.
Yeah.
Like the ones that are molded. But I think that the action of the movie was top notch. It's a good like 7.5, 8 Marvel movie, you know what I mean? It's far from the best, but it's far from the worst.
At least it's fun and intriguing.
Yeah.
Like sure, maybe it has some tropes that we've already seen before. Of course. It feels like it's not retreaded, but safe would be the best word.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that we got it, though, at the end of the day.
There's a reason we like these movies. There's a reason we like these Marvel movies. It's kind of like Ant-Man and the Wasp didn't reinvent the wheel. Neither did Ant-Man.
No.
You know, but, you know, what do we get there? Oh, the criminal is the hero now.
Yeah.
You know? What about and then Ant-Man and the Wasp? It was just, you know, his suit's broken. You know what I mean? And he's got the Wasp. You know? Like, it wasn't, you know, they weren't reinventing the wheel, but they were just solid day in the life of, and I noticed that Marvel has these kind of B-tier stories. Iron Man 2, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think Iron Man 2 falls into that category. Thor 2, Thor 1, you know, some of Thor 1. Captain Marvel, the Ant-Man movies, Incredible Hulk, and Black Widow. I think they kind of fit in that kind of, it's not the top of the top, you know, of the Marvel stories, but they're not bad. Even the worst they have to offer is still entertaining. It's still palatable.
And based on the sales, based on the turnout, both on Disney Plus Premiere and also at the theaters, people showed up for Black Widow, and that's great to see.
Yeah.
Because again, like this is a character that's kind of like WandaVision, kind of like Loki, have always been there with our heroes the entire time, but have never been fully explored. Right. And even though this will be the last time we ever get to see Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow. For this version, she may come back as a multiverse version. Who knows,
right? We don't know how it works, though. The jury's out on that because we don't know how it works for people who die with the Soul Stone.
Yeah, they might bring her back.
We don't really know how the rules work there.
And if they don't bring her back with the Soul Stone, she can come back as a multiverse version.
Multiverse version, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm excited to see Florence Poe be the. Come on, it's clearly they're handing off the mantles for her to be or set up her, having her to be set up as a Black Widow character or some type of character that will eventually join our characters in the future.
They go back and forth in the comic books.
Yeah.
They do go back and forth where it's like it'll be Yelena Belova, or Yelena Belova will be in the West Coast Avengers, or not West Coast Avengers, but she'll be like in the Thunderbirds while Romanov is in the Avengers. You know what I mean? Like they're both Black Widows, kind of like Miles Morales and Peter Parker. You know, where they're both Spider-Men, but they exist in different parts. You know what I mean? They have different functions.
I love the energy that she brought to the movie. I thought her character and that actress, how they played off, their role, as supporting, not supporting replacement, but a supporting role to Black Widow's mantle, right?
Right.
I thought that was great, and they had such a good sister dynamic that you really believe that they could be interchangeable, right?
Romanov was so like Natasha was she's reluctant in her abilities. You know what I mean? She doesn't accept them like with glee, where Yelena Belova was like she's enthusiastic about her. Like when she's on the helicopter, she's like, "Oh, that'd be a cool way to die." It's like fuck yeah, you know. So it's a cool
dynamic between them,
dynamic,
and how they could represent different Black Widows. One that's more serious and one that's more fun.
It's a balanced counterweight to the way she like. Everything's so dreary with Natasha. You know what I mean?
Because she comes from a dark background, and you even see that in the first 10-15 minutes of the opening, before you even get the opening credit crawl.
Right.
That great scene with their kids. I think, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just shows that
where they have to run and shit.
They come from a world where it wasn't pleasant.
No,
tragedy and trauma, loss.
Yeah. No, it was. Like I said, man. I think the character deserved it. I think Scarlett Johansson, she's fucking done her time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like they should have given her a movie a long time ago. She done
at least she got it now. She got her own solo movie, and us as the fans, we got to see a Black Widow movie.
It's respectable. You know what I mean? Where it's like, all right,
now go buy the $20 suit from Marvel's Avengers.
There you go. Fucking hell, man.
But okay, so let me just pose a question to you. Now that we have Black Widow done, let's talk about that end credit scene. So we have Madam Hydra showing up to Yelena
Belova.
Yelena Belova's scene of her going up to Scarlett Johansson's Natasha Romanoff's tombstone, right?
Yeah.
And I love how that was a poetic beat compared to Dreykov when he said like, "Oh yeah, I saw her tombstone. It said unknown." Right. And I love that imagery of how they had set that up. And so you see this tombstone that does have a name. It shows that she was a sister, daughter, Avenger, right? Yeah. And then you have what's her name?
Yelena Belova?
No. Madam Hydra's actor.
That's Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Dreyfus, she comes up and offers her, "Hey, I have a job for you. This, and that." Yeah. Hawkeye. Hawkeye TV series, which we're getting at the end of the year.
Yeah. So it kind of makes me believe, what if it's a Hawkeye and Kate Bishop versus the Thunderbolts? Because that jury's out on that still. But if you look at it, we're getting Abomination and Shang-Chi. Mm-hmm. We have Madam Hydra.
And Madam Hydra has
U.S. Agent.
Has Yelena and also U.S. Agent under her palm.
The new Black Widow. We have.
Well, we don't know if she's the new Black Widow. She could be her own character for all we know.
I don't think they would bring her in and not.
I'm just saying, there's a Black Canary and a White Canary. That she could be White Widow. You never know.
Sure. But she's a widow.
WW.
She's a widow. She is a widow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what they call the students of the Red Room. So like you have Yelena Belova. You have John Walker. Mm-hmm. You have
Taskmaster. I'm just gonna throw Taskmaster in there.
Sure. Yeah. He's in the. We have Taskmaster. We have. Abomination's coming out in Shang-Chi for fucking no apparent reason. But really think about it. Yeah. Why the fuck is he in that movie? You know what I mean? If it's not to set something else up. We got Wong versus Abomination.
Apparently we're having like a superhuman hero fight, like underground hero fight.
Yeah.
I could see Wong, you know what? I didn't want to suck any more dick. I needed the money.
Oh God. No, but he's I'm sure it gets tiring to play second fiddle to Benedict Cumberbatch. No, but I don't think all of that stuff's for no reason. Yeah. And bringing in William Hurt as Thunderbolt Ross and Black Widow, it's like he's back in, he's back in, and we're getting Emil Blonsky in She-Hulk as Abomination. We're getting Tim Roth as Abomination again. So they're putting in these characters that should be done, and they haven't been around in 10 years. You know what I mean? Right. Now that all this time has passed and the Thanos thing is done, they can bring these characters in, So I really think they're gearing up to some kind of like anti-Avengers build up, and maybe we're gonna get a Disney Plus show. Maybe we're gonna get a flat out movie. We there's rumors that we're getting Norman Osborn in Spider-Man 3. You know,
Yeah.
what if they bring back the Iron Patriot armor and he becomes the leader of the Thunderbolts?
And
you know?
then you
Who
could
knows?
see this change where people are tired of the Avengers because guess what happened? They had the blip, and then they had the they had the was it the vanishing, right?
Yeah.
They had the vanishing, and they had the blip. Like, these fuckers keep fucking with our lives.
Yeah,
like, fuck
yeah.
these guys, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I lost my daughter for 5 years, and she came back, and you know what I'm saying? Like, things like that.
Yeah.
Like, it could be that part where, like, maybe they're tired of superheroes running amok, you know? And fucking everything up.
That could be it too. And I mean, and that's just from the Thanos stuff.
Yeah.
That's not to mention, the stuff that happened during Civil War and it happened all that, earlier. But yeah, I don't think they would be bringing in all these people without having a reason or having some kind of through line.
Right.
You know, like, why is Julia Louis-Dreyfus? Why cast that name?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who was at one point the highest paid actress on TV or something like that? Why hire that person if you're not planning to do something big?
Right.
You know?
For all we know, she could be building a MODOK.
Oh shit!
With Patton Oswalt. No,
I would love to
imagine a Patton Oswalt MODOK in the movies,
but playing it straight.
But play it straight.
Playing it straight, yeah, that would be fucking great. I can't see anybody else playing MODOK, if I'm being honest with you. I can't see anyone else being MODOK aside from Patton Oswalt. It can be a tragedy, it can be a comedy, it could be an action. I want Patton Oswalt to play all of them.
Right.
All MODOKs. Patton Oswalt.
Well, either way, we're still in. We may have our differences, at least when it comes to Loki, but we both agree Loki's awesome. The show is awesome. The way it sets up for the next Phase 4. It's awesome that we got this glimpse into the past with Black Widow and what it sets up for the future as well. And again, Marvel's still killing it. I feel like this is the lull before we start to build back up again, to that mountain, to that next peak in the story.
We're back at Phase 1.
Yeah, and they mentioned that they wanted to take their time to rebuild the cast, bring in these new characters, build the world up a little bit more. That's why you're having introductions of Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings, the Immortals, Blade, things like that. That's gonna be. I'm really excited for Miss Marvel's TV show that's coming out. I think after Hawkeye's later this year.
I think it might be before.
Oh,
I think Miss Marvel is before, and then it's Hawkeye. But they're both to be announced.
Right.
Like, as far as like when they drop.
When their schedules are. Yeah, I'm really excited to see that, and then see her come out in the next the Miss Marvel's movie with Captain Marvel. That's gonna be all the Marvels, right? And that's gonna be really exciting. And then Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. What does that mean for the future?
Immediately we have Shang-Chi, then we have Eternals, and then we have Spider-Man 2 coming on the movie front.
Right.
Yeah, and then then we have first is What Ifs, and then we have Marvel and Hawkeye, Miss Marvel and Hawkeye. So it's a lot, man. It's a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, we have the next 5-6 years already planned.
Yeah.
Of course, just like with the movies before. Hopefully it doesn't run out of steam. Whatever, but
I hope so. Yeah.
But for now, we can only trust them because guess what? They're still killing it at the end of the day.
Killing it,
yeah. Either way, let's talk about killing stuff. I wanted to talk about Assassin's Creed.
Ooh, shit.
I wanted to talk to you about Assassin's Creed, how lately there's been these rumors of a new project in Ubisoft called Assassin's Creed Infinite. I have an article here by Bloomberg.com written by Jason Schreier. Let me just read it to you, okay?
Sure.
Assassin's Creed, a video game franchise set in the huge worlds where each one can take hundreds of hours to complete, is getting even bigger. A new project, which is known inside Ubisoft Entertainment SA by the codename Assassin's Creed Infinity, sets out to create a massive online platform that evolves over time, according to people familiar with the development, where previous Assassin's Creed games each unfolded in specific historical settings, such as ancient Greece, Ptolemaic Egypt. Infinity will contain multiple settings with room to expand to others in months and years to follow its debut, said the people who asked not to be identified, discussing the project under development. Individual games on the platform might look and feel different, but they will all be connected. Details surrounding the project, which hasn't been previously reported, are in flux and still years away from release. The teams have been, A spokeswoman for Ubisoft declined to discuss Infinity in detail, but acknowledged its existence. Ubisoft aims to exceed the expectations of fans who have been asking for a more cohesive approach to the series, the spokeswoman said. Since 2007, Ubisoft has released a new game in the popular action-adventure series every year or two. Collectively, the Assassin's Creed games have sold more than 155 million copies, easily making it the biggest franchise for the French publisher. The plan to turn Assassin's Creed into the so-called service game follows a trend employed by other big publishers. Inspired by smash hits like Fortnite, Grand Theft Auto 5, these living online platforms can keep players engaged for years by frequently adding new content or changing the experience in dramatic ways. The fifth Grand Theft Auto game, which has sold more than 140 million copies, largely thanks to the constantly updated multiplayer mode, is approaching its 8th birthday with versions planned for the third generation of consoles, which meaning the Series X and the PS5. Because again, these games that just are always constantly being updated and people are constantly playing them, they just rake in money. Do you know how much money Grand Theft Auto makes on the daily? It's insane amounts of money. But because of that, they're also always updating the game with so many new things. I think right now they're doing kind of like a Fast and the Furious DLC expansion where you can download cars and race them and things like that.
Fortnite does that too, right?
Yeah, Fortnite.
They're just constantly updating it.
Constantly updating it because they know that the money is there. And if you keep people playing for longer, the more chances is they'll keep spending more money. So then what I wanted to ask you, Rob, is what do you think of that of beloved IP franchises who used to be single player games? You know, like you beat this game, it was a one and done. You wait for the next one. Now you're just gonna have your franchise and you're just constantly playing it. Do you think that it seems like the industry is going that way, and it seems like a good idea for people who love that type of game, right? I can easily burn out from a franchise like for Destiny, right? For example, I've been playing Destiny for like 5 years, and it's a 6-year-old game, and I eventually burned out because it's just so much of it, and you're constantly playing it where it almost feels like a job.
I see, and if you miss something, you miss
then
it,
you have
and
FOMO.
it's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah, FOMO. I think for games that are coming out every year, I think that it's okay to just consolidate it, make a world,
right,
exist in that world, and just develop the challenges that happen in that world, like Destiny,
right,
or like WoW did back in the day. You know, where there's expansion packs and stuff,
mm-hmm.
but it's all there. You know, it's all there, and they can just keep adding and polishing it. And you get like texture updates, and they'd be cool to like keep the graphics up to date and stuff.
I mean, it sounds cool what they're doing. Like, if we have so many different Assassin's Creed set in different historical times, we have what's it called, not medieval, but Ironworks London with Assassin's Creed Syndicate, right? And then we have France with Assassin's Creed Unity. What if you just played, you know how in the story of Assassin's Creed, you're this company called Abstergo, right? And you're these people who are just playing the memories of these characters that lived in those times, right?
Through the Animus.
So what if the Assassin's Creed Infinity is that? You're just in this Animus game, and you get to play all these assassins from all these different time periods. And they give you Altair, right? And you can play back then when he came on as the first game. They give you Ezio, and you can go back to Italy and play in that world.
Or go the Halo Reach route where you just make your own assassin,
and then play in those worlds.
It's a sprawling society, right? Of assassins. So like, there's tons of assassins throughout history, and it wasn't like there was one at one time. There was multiple.
There's a brotherhood.
Yeah, so you could like run into Ezio.
That was the name of the game.
No, you could run into Ezio. You could run into Altair. You could run into Connor. You could run into all those characters. I fell off after 2, if I'm being honest. I fell off after 2. I wanted to play 3, never got around to it. But it like for games like Call of Duty or games like Assassin's Creed, where you have one every year, I mean that's a really easy way to feel cheated. Where you get a title that's just not up to par. It's better if you just release one solid world, one solid like kind of base plate or springboard to kind of have all these other adventures in. That's a better way of doing it. And every 3 months or every month, have content that comes out, or every 3 months have new content that comes out. I think that's a better model for the consumer, Maybe not for the industry, but for the consumer, that's a better model where you're buying, when you buy the game, you're buying access to this world, you know? And if you pay a monthly subscription, fine. You pay a monthing subscription, that's so that
everything's monthly subscription now.
Everything is like that, you know?
Especially if you care about that much, you will be paying that. Like if there was sorry, I was gonna say if there was a Final Fantasy subscription, I would do it.
Yeah.
I'm already fucking playing that. That's fucking 14. Me and Brendan are playing that.
Yeah.
And we're paying it every month because even though we don't play often, but when we do play, we have fun. And and this is a world where you meet other different people who are playing the same game.
Right. That's how Final Fantasy 14 is.
You run it's just like people? WoW. You see everyone running around.
Okay. Yeah. That's cool. I think that's if there was a game that would be adapted to that, it'd be Assassin's Creed, because you're in these whole towns and these whole cities.
Egypt, France, Italy, Japan, all of Greece. They did Alexandria.
Yeah.
Rome, and there was another city that they did in Greece. But and these are like almost what's it called? Pixel by pixel recreations of these cities. So like when you're traveling, like it takes you a long time to get to this specific area because you have to ride there.
Yeah.
And it's in the distance is the same than it would be in real life.
Right. And everything is accessible for the most part in these Assassin's Creed games. There's not like a background, you know, it's not just a painted background that you can't get to.
Right. So it's not like a sci-fi game where you have to figure out the rules of the world. Like you're going to kill stuff and assassinate stuff.
They've always been really good too at making the city feel alive.
Yeah.
Like the cities never feel empty or hollow, or the cities, as far as I remember, you know, from the first, I think 3 kind of felt like that. Black Flag was a little bit different because you're at sea.
Yeah.
You know?
I love Black Flag.
I thought it was great. It was great. From what I saw, I played a little bit. I just never beat it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's adaptable to that. And if that cuts down the amount of like crummy entries to the title, you know what I'm saying? Or to the franchise. If it cuts down on crummy entries and you just get this one big entry and then you just
make it an online platform, just like Fortnite. Yeah. Fortnite's just Fortnite. There's no sequel. There's no expansion. It's just Fortnite.
And then you unlock different parts of the world as you play. You know, you unlock different memories. You know, this memory is in Russia. This memory is in Australia for whatever reason. You know, like you can go ahead and do that versus having a whole other game come out and then you got to worry about the narrative, worry about being disappointed,
starting over to tutorials.
Yeah. You could just get one thing and polish it until it's good. I don't think that's conducive for titles like BioShock or Halo, other titles that share the Infinite subtitle. But I don't think it's conducive for games like that because there's certain games that are better as events. You know what I mean? Where they just
as
drop
like a
off.
Single narrative event, a game that you play through and then move on.
Yeah, where they drop off every couple of years and it takes 5-6 years to make one, 4 years, 3 years, whatever. But if it's a title that's every year, by all means, that's the best way of doing it.
Or just a title that's just constantly evolving.
I don't want to be buying a new Call of Duty every year. That's literally why I stopped playing Call of Duty.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if they do it the way they're doing it in Warzone, where they're just dropping
new content, and then you can just jump in whenever.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I feel like playing Call of Duty. Warzone is free. Yeah. Let me buy into this season, and then there you go. Just have fun.
Cold War. You buy Modern Warfare, the remake of Modern Warfare. Like it's I think it's fine. I don't know. Maybe that method hasn't been done long enough to see.
It feels like a lot of games are going that way either way. At least for big AAA companies, because again, like I mentioned, it just seems like the business model isn't there anymore, where you just make a game and sell it and then move on to the next game. That again, that's good. There's companies that are definitely making money that way. CD Projekt Red with Cyberpunk, with The Witcher, they're making tons of money making just high polished games and experience. Well,
that's over
time they make highly polished games that sell millions and millions of copies, but you have to hit those millions of copies sold to make the money back in the investment that you're putting in, right?
To keep polishing and to keep investing in the project.
Or you can make your money off a dedicated smaller base, but have them spend their money over time and have them hooked for a longer period of time. A lot of people have considered Assassin's Creed getting longer and longer to beat the game and also to do all the extra stuff, because the longer you play, the more they add to the game. Like, hey, we just added a new sword to the game for $2. You can buy it. You know, things like that.
Yeah, but if you sell a sword at $2 100,000 times, you know what I mean? Like that's, or or a sword for or a DLC for $5, and it sells 500,000,
Yeah,
500,000
exactly.
downloads. There you go.
Yeah,
You know what
that's
I
a
mean?
ton of money right
That's
there,
a
just
ton of
in
fucking money.
right. And I think, and I guess like what my fear is, like a lot of games are gonna go this way, but that means that you're gonna have to have the headspace for these people to be constantly playing these games. Again,
Yeah.
that's what I didn't like about Destiny, where it became like a chore, right? So if you want to do the best content and the high level content and play the latest stuff that they have to offer, you have to be on your game. You have to be constantly playing, because if you
Right.
fall too far behind, by the time you get to the part where you get to enjoy the new stuff, the other stuff is already coming in.
That's true.
And that
That's
means that
true.
they're taking your time. And even Netflix has mentioned before that Netflix's biggest competitor is not other streaming services. They're
Yeah.
scared of Fortnite. They're scared of the video games that are taking time away from people watching
other
shows
people.
and movies and things like that, because people are spending so much time and money in these worlds and these evolving worlds that they're constantly playing. Like if you're into Warzone, that's all you're playing.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll pick up a game here and two, but like for most people, playing Warzone, it's just their thing, and that's what they do every single day, 300 days out of the year,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it depends on the type of game,
Yeah.
on the way the game is released. I couldn't imagine, like, if we're talking like a story, like GTA has the luxury of having the heists
Yeah.
and having the multiplayer stuff.
And just being a criminal or a cop, whatever, right?
Sure,
Like just
sure.
being all these things that you can do as a multiplayer
But
person.
the story of the GTA games, the narrative of any Rockstar game right now, that's what really sells. You know what I mean? Like Red Dead sold, and yeah, the online community is great. It's a great online experience. But
like, would you play another Red Dead Online, or sorry, another Red Dead game? Let's say if they do go a platform, right, and they don't do the story anymore, they just have an online world.
well, that's where they're at now.
Right.
With the thing is, here's the thing: if they released another Red Dead story, like a DLC that was story,
Yeah,
I'm buying it. You know what I mean?
And would you mind if they added it to the online world? So let's
No.
say hey, for $30 we added this
Undead
Nightmares 2.
Part
You know?
2, yeah.
I love how you thought
right
about
there.
the same
It
thing.
was the obvious. It was the next logical step. No, yeah, I would. But what I'm saying is, there's some games that are made to be these blockbusters.
Right.
That it's you hold back information, you hold back, and then boom, release, and then everyone's talking about it. The way Red Dead, when it came out, people were not talking about the online experience. Those are people who fell in love with the game, fell in love with the mechanics, fell in love with fishing and hunting and robbing and bounties, and they want to keep doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's how they have fun. But that's not why Red Dead hit. Red Dead hit because the narrative, first thing anyone says when they talk about what they like about Red Dead, for the most part, is the story.
The story,
You know what
the
I mean?
mechanics.
If certain games are gonna thrive being released every 3 or 4 years, every 5 years, and other games are going to benefit from having that constant trickle, that IV trickle of content. You know what I mean? Like Fortnite.
Right.
Games like, in my opinion, Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed, I feel that the way they're released is designed to seamlessly go into that service kind of model.
They're already a service model but just having different entries. Because they never stopped.
They were already a service model. They just didn't know it. You get what I'm saying?
Because they never stopped. Call of Duty's every year.
They never stop.
The only difference is that you're paying every year for the new access.
Exactly. So like, I think that for a lot of games, it's fine. It's fine. But I don't think that by default the industry should go there because it's the new hotness. You know, I don't think that's good for anybody. You know what I mean?
But industries, it always takes years for industries to get on one wave and then to move to a pivot to another wave.
I think people...
Like, look at the battle royale genre, right?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like right now we hit our apex. We hit the apex of all the games that are going to have a battle royale. I think by the next time, maybe like in 2 to 3 years, you're not going to see that many battle royales. You're going to see something else taking off. Right now, games like Valorant and Overwatch seem to be coming back into vogue again. Like the hero shooter or the 6 versus 6 team-based, skill-based tactical shooters starting to come back in popularity. Because again, I think Battle Royale kind of ran its course, and now we're a little tired of it. We want to move on to something else.
Maybe. I think that there's a niche for everything. I
of
think
course,
that's what we're seeing.
That's what's great, that we live in. Sorry, no, I didn't want you to cut you off, but
Go ahead.
But I love that in many ways we live in a world where we have so many options. Like just like how we had mentioned before, maybe in a couple episodes ago, there's something to watch for everyone.
There's something to watch for everyone.
If you're into ghost shows, you love sorry, I was helping this person who loved some show called Ghost Hunters or something like that, and that's on like TLC Plus or one of those streaming services. I'm like, good on that person. He found what he likes, and there's a service providing that the type of shows that person enjoys. I feel like in video games we have so many options now where if you want to play Destiny, if you want to play Assassin's Creed or Call of Duty for the rest of like the rest of your life, it's gonna be there as long as people show up, you know?
Yeah.
Because eventually, like, though there's some brands that I always mentioned with other people that I feel that there's some IPs and brands that are so powerful that they're too big to fail. You know, almost like Coke or Pepsi.
Sometimes, but those are the ones that fall hardest, man. Those are the Halo 5s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those are the ones where Halo 5 commercially did fine.
Yeah.
You know, but it left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths.
And didn't stick as much as other Halos in the title.
I
remember
back to Reach. People went back to
3 even, you know?
Yeah. And so, like I said, I think that there's a niche for everything, but it depends on the community of that game. I don't think that there's a surefire way of making money, and that's what we're seeing with, PlayStation found exclusivity as a way to bring in their commerce.
For $70, we're gonna give you a really highly polished hit that you're gonna fucking fall in love.
We've poured millions of dollars into.
Yeah,
and then Xbox is like, for $15. We're gonna give you everything.
We're gonna give you a buffet.
Exactly.
Like, you know what you're getting with the buffet. Like, it's not gonna be the highest quality ingredients. But you're getting a little bit of everything.
You're getting noodles and ketchup. You know, you're not getting spaghetti. You know, and so like there, I think that there's not one way of making money. There's not one way of doing it. Right now, I appreciate the adventure, the kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I appreciate the exploration that these companies are doing to find new ways of taking our money. You know what I mean? But it's a
business at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it's a novel approach. Yeah, let's revolutionize it. Let's rebuild it. It's like we talked about early before we started rolling. It's a new industry. It's 45 years old at best, gaming. So we still don't know how games are going to be consumed.
Yeah.
Did people think when films came out, when they were watching silent movies, did they ever think that you were going to be, that the apex of watching film was going to be on a video cassette in your home, the way it happened in the 80s and the 90s?
Right.
You know what I mean? That was where most people got movies,
Right. Once it became more accessible to everyone.
Yeah, that was like the peak of like film consumption, was like the video store days, And
now we even get it on your phone. You can watch a movie during a 15-minute lunch, at your work.
Watch it over a week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's no telling where the industry goes. There's no telling how the population is going to respond to a new business model. There's really no telling. There's certain games that are going to adapt to the Fortnite style or the subscription style.
Yeah. And if that works for them, it's going to work. And if it doesn't, then they'll do something else. Because like let's say if Assassin's Creed doesn't sell well, or maybe they don't get enough subscribers to buy into the Infinite, then they'll just make another game
and go away for 5 years and come back with or go away for 2 years, because they're every year.
Yeah.
Come back with a new title.
Yeah. What would get you back into Assassin's Creed? Like, what about it got you off, and what would get you back? Like, let's say, like, Tito, like, where we heard you that you didn't play since Assassin's Creed 2. We have this new game, this online game. We're going to tell you this, and that to get you back.
I did not like that when I played Assassin's Creed 2 episode, I think it was chapter 12, 13, and 14. Or chapter 13 and 14, 15 or something like that. It went from like chapter 11 and it skipped like 3 chapters, and then they tried to sell me. So they took levels away from the fucking game I bought.
Yeah.
And then they try to sell me those levels at an extra cost. And it's like, no. This is not what additional content is.
Oh, that was a dark time. I remember that.
It left a bad taste in my mouth. And I was like, fuck this.
Prince of Persia sold the ending as a DLC.
That is fucking dog shit.
Yeah.
That is dog shit.
And that was a bad time. That was a bad time in gaming, where or DLC that was on the disc already, and all you were doing essentially was just buying a token to unlock the content that was already on the disc that you bought.
Yeah, that's not good business, dude.
Yeah,
that's not good business. That's bad business. So I didn't like that, and then and it was such huge story beats in the like the background of the game. You want to know about the metaphysical stuff that was going on in Assassin's Creed. I had to collect so many little flags, so many little things, a lot of busy work to just get something that was critical to the plot, you know? And if it wasn't critical to the plot, they did a good job because it was extremely intriguing. You know, the two kids running on the rooftops and the camera was behind them. It was so cool. But when I saw how much I had to, I was like, fuck this.
That's one thing that they always get criticism for, which is rightly deserved, is that they are always being, they always feel like the games are being bloated, you know?
Yeah, like padded with just bullshit.
Just to make the game, artificially longer than what it is.
Right. So for me to get back into it, I want to see it streamlined. And maybe if this is the way it's going to streamline it, then I'm 100% in. You know, I just don't want all that padding. I don't want all that buffering. I don't want any of that. It's just like, it's not necessary. You know what I mean? If it's clear and concise, this is what this is how we're going to do it, this is what we're going to do, then I'm down.
You mentioned something earlier that I thought was really interesting. You had mentioned like some games don't adhere well to that model. Yeah. Could you see like a Witcher service, like, hey, let's give you, sorry, I always forget the name of the world that they live in, but let's say let's say they gave you that world and you are, again, because the Witcher, Geralt of Rivia. Geralt of Rivia, he's a Witcher, right? So doesn't mean, so that means that there is a faction of Witchers out there. Yeah. What if you're a Witcher and then you have stories and then this world's constantly evolving? Like, hey, here's the massacre of blah blah blah. Yeah. Play these missions, and find out what happens and keep on playing, leveling up, fight these creatures. I could see The Witcher doing something like that, where they could make an online world and you're a Witcher and you're leveling up, doing the missions and going to different places in that world.
I think that as long as you're a custom protagonist where you make your own guy, or you're not playing as a character, and all the characters that we kind of know and love and shit like that. Yeah. Like they're just like side characters or NPCs or whatever. Yeah. But as long as like kind of the way DC Universe, the game is, where you kind of make your own character and then everyone that's established exists around you. Right. I think that's cool because then everyone's nameless and everyone has their version of how things went down.
It's your own story. It's your hero's journey.
And then you can kind of live through it. But if it's something where it's an established character, I think you're putting yourself in a box,
Right,
it's like
exactly.
That Master Chief syndrome, where after Reach, we shouldn't have gone back to Master Chief.
No, we shouldn't.
After Reach, you should have been your own Spartan, your own ODST, and just keep going.
That's what was great about playing Noble 6, being what's the name of the character you play as in ODST? Because Noble 6
the rookie.
The rookie, right? Yeah. That's what was fun. After being in this world with Master Chief, you now felt like a character in that series. Yeah. And even there had been rumors before Halo Infinite was revealed, that what if Halo was going to be an online platform with their story being constantly updated, multiplayer firefight was just going to be constantly updated, and then made an online platform. Yeah. But again, they went the opposite way. They like, no, let's just make another good Halo title.
But they could keep
which is fine, right?
They could keep doing that, but make a Halo title, and then have what if Master Chief, like for example, you're not playing as Master Chief, you're not playing as fucking Locke, you're not playing like you're playing as your character and all the stuff with Master Chief. You're just a team member in his fire team, right? And he's leading and you're following him, or vice versa. He becomes a commander. He's telling you what to do, and you got him in your ear. Whatever, doesn't matter. And then
you do high level content, get new pieces of gear to make your own Spartan the way you want to make it look in the colors that you want, and
unlock things and upgrades and shit like that. Because the way they did it was like, you don't need to upgrade Chief. You know what I mean? Like he's already what he's gonna be. Just put him aside.
This kind of sounds like Warframe a little bit. Yeah. If because Warframe reminds me so much of Halo, because I know they're Tennos. That's the name of the characters. They're like space ninjas, but they all have different armors and abilities and things like that you can do, and you're constantly fighting an alien threat.
Yeah, I've only played the beginning of Warframe, but
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I can't get into
too much shit going on, man. But it was a little tedious, but I should give it a shot. My brother likes it a lot.
Right.
But I gotta give it another shot because I'm like, it was a lot to get into, a lot of exposition to go through.
It's definitely a hard game to get into. I tried it like 3 times to get into it and just can't get past the first beginning levels because at some point they stop holding your hand and you have so many different options. I'm like, what do I even do?
It's like the first Zelda, right?
Yeah.
Where you're in Hyrule and you're like, what the fuck am I gonna do? You can go up, down, left, or right, and it's different from different every time.
One thing I did want to mention to you is like, okay, let's say if you're a person who did enjoy the one and dones, like, hey, I just want a title either every year or every couple of years, right?
Yeah.
And you're no longer going to provide that. I feel like, do you feel like the double A or kind of like the lower tier of development, right? Like the indie scene or the double A production, like something like Greedfall, right?
Yeah.
They're doing a Dragon Age that felt more like what Dragon Age was before than what it became now. Do you think that's going to be strong enough and provide that for people who wanted that, I guess, more old school experience?
I think that's a good place to start because it's a finite budget for a finite product. You know what I mean? Like where it's like, okay, we got this much budget to make this much of a game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then that's it. If the game does well, yeah, sure.
Then it could take off.
Then it could take off, and you can come in with a sequel that's expansive like that.
Or even if it does well enough where you can fund the next one.
But I think it really falls down to like the narrative of the game. Like, does the narrative lend itself to something that's open ended that you can update constantly? We do the story for Outriders, and then you got all the CTs that come after. Why? There's no reason they can't go up to CT 30.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. There's no reason why they can't do that. So like.
But the story has ended though. So like if you're a person who doesn't really care about the CT running and you don't care about getting max gear, the Outriders ended as soon as you finish the story.
Sure. But the way you make people care about that is you have them you have their progress tracked when a new DLC comes out. Because I have a feeling that we haven't seen the end of the narrative side to this entry of like the Outriders game. You know what I mean? Like I think that there's we're gonna get DLC content. That's gonna, and all the progress that you've done in the CTs and up until that point, all the builds that we've been putting our work into, you'll be able to use that in the new content. You know what I mean? At least that's what I'm hoping for.
I know for it's funny that Marvel's Avengers was such a disappointment for Square Enix, and then Outriders was the surprise hit for the sleeper hit for Square Enix, and that they're definitely putting a lot of support behind Outriders now. They see that there's a potential for this brand new IP which they own. Again, they don't have to share licensing deals with Marvel. They own this IP and it's theirs. And there's so much potential to make more business and more expansions, while Marvel's Avengers is just struggling to keep a player base.
But the pendulum is swinging the other way.
Yeah,
there's a lot of content coming out on
Marvel's side.
Yeah, there's a shit ton of content coming out.
This will be the year that will really prove
make or break.
And then I'm sorry, but it is, because if this doesn't get people back into Marvel's Avengers, then what will?
Yeah.
Maybe Guardians will be the saving grace.
Sure.
Maybe the player base just wants a good single player storyline, and because if you think about it, the MCU has treated us to so many great stories, and that's kind of what you want. We just want a really good playable story that's fun to play. We didn't want to grind Taskmaster 50 times to get to the next to get to the mega highs, things like that. Like, I don't think we were in for that. Like, I welcome that. I like playing the game. I think the game is great to play, but I want story. I want things that matter.
The lack of variety was the worst thing about that game.
Yeah, because it all became samey after a while.
Yeah. I couldn't tell which was, it's like, am I even going the right way? It looks exactly the fucking same.
Same hallways that we've seen like 100 times.
100 fucking times. Same villains, same everything,
Yeah.
So I hope that where they're going, it looks like they're, now that like a lot of restrictions are opening up, they're starting to pour more stuff into it.
Yeah.
So hopefully that pans out, and hopefully that, all this progress wasn't for naught, you know what I mean? Because that sucks.
And one thing that I noticed, again, me, I like to always be in the subreddits for a lot of different video games. And a lot of people have made a lot of good points that, man, Marvel really, if they put as much effort to make these skins as they would to make new stuff in the game, this game would be in a much better place.
Throw some fucking skins on those fucking aimbots, man.
Make them into freaking Sentinels
or Ultron bots.
Anything.
anything. They could turn them into fucking Wall-E. That'll be better than fucking the same shit, dude, for a year. It's like, God damn it.
And that's why I want to bring up Marvel. Like, it's the same pitfalls that live service games have to overcome. Like in Marvel's case, it seems like Marvel was 2 games at some point. It was a single player story game, and then you know what? We need some type of live service multiplayer part to come in here. And in order to sustain the game, and we see how if you go too half-assed and you don't do either justice, then it just leaves a bad experience for everyone.
I'm hoping it was
a fluke.
Not a fluke. I'm hoping it was, not that I'm hoping, but I understand if it was COVID, you know, and now that's not going to be an excuse anymore.
Right.
So it's like, okay, if that excuse is gone, where are you guys at?
Yeah, let's see what Battle for Wakanda brings out. At least from what they've shown on the Twitter and everything that they're showing about every asset is bringing brand new. None of these aimbots are going to be reused. They're going to be brand new. I mean, it's still going to be aimbots, but they're going to be brand new models, brand new tactics you have to use to defeat them, things like that. That sounds all promising.
And that's kind of where what you were talking about with Assassin's Creed, where they have a deep bench of models and of things or even locations that they've built. You know,
they've built over time for a long time.
If they bring them all back and just have new if they could bring back shit from part 1, from Assassin's Creed 1, and just have that be one of the memories you play, one of the you know, the genetic memories you play as, and you exist in that entire world. That's a whole game of content that you can kind of retraverse, you know what I mean? It might need some updating, it might need some
bring it to today's standards,
bring it up to today's standards, but you know, today's standards are pretty forgiving when you look at some of the games that are on Game Pass, you know what I mean? Like, you know, style does have value over, you know, resolution sometimes, you know what I mean? So if they stylize it a little bit, it could work.
Definitely. Well, thank you for everyone for joining us for episode 10. We will see you guys next time.
Bye, everybody.